1 minute until showtime.
Oh, yeah.
104.
That was good.
That wasn't bad.
Not bad.
You think we ought to go for 106? 106. Let's see if we can do 106.
You're the boss, man.
All right, here we go. Hey! Oh, man, that was a 96. What's up with that? They used up all their energy.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, from the world's most famous beach, from where beach racing began, it's the Legends of Racing radio show, live from racing's North Turn Beach Bar and Grill in Ponce Inlet, Florida. The Legends of Racing radio show with your host, Buzz McKim, and co-host, Gary Keller.
Hey.
Hey, thank you very much.
Another week, another dollar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nice weather today.
It is.
Yeah, it's nice all the way up the coast, all the way up into New York, I think, and
Yeah.
Maine's going to be like 75, something like that. It's crazy.
They say there's two to four more big waves out.
Oh,
Coming,
nice.
Coming from South Africa, so.
That's not good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how long hurricane season's going to go on? Boy, I'll tell
Yeah,
you.
they say another month.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
but it sure looks very calm today compared to what it was.
Oh, boy.
You know.
Yeah, it's very nice, very nice. We have a great guest today and a repeat guest. He was great the first time. He's going to be great this time. His dad was one of the best short track drivers ever. He ran the beach, and he ran Daytona. Didn't he run Daytona too?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was David Ezell. This is Mr. Wayne Ezell right here, everybody.
Yes, sir, Wayne.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Back again.
Thank you.
Again. Yes, sir.
I bet you saw some great things over the years, didn't you?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
What was the most memorable, Wayne,
Um,
concerning your dad? I'm sure there were a lot of moments, but what's the one thing that stands out? I mean, he raced with a lot of stupendous, great drivers.
Probably the one thing that stood out the most was the traveling we did. I mean, we'd leave on, when I was old enough to travel with him, we would leave on Friday night, not get back till Monday morning at, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just enough time for me to take a shower, get ready to go back to school, because if I missed school, I couldn't go on the next trip.
Right.
So I didn't miss school. But looking back at it, I was talking to my friend John about this on the way here. It's from the time I was old enough to think about it, I just lived, breathed, ate racing. That's it. And of course, that came from being in the garage with Dad every night and that type of thing. So, I've got a lot of good memories.
What did he do for a living?
He was a mechanic most of the time. Sometimes he did body work, but he was a mechanic. U.S. Gypsum had a plant there in Jacksonville. He worked many years with U.S. Gypsum. So.
Seems like you told us last time that people would bring their car over to the shop and he would work on it there.
Yes.
So that's how he kind of moonlighted and made his money to support the racing habit.
He did. And, and he was blessed, too, to have anytime you're good at what you do, you've got to have good sponsorship, good ownership. So a lot of the cars that he drove and so forth, he had some good people. He had a guy that was really just a real estate investor that he drove for many years that had good money. And a lot of those were the trips that they took up north when they went through, Darlington and Myrtle Beach and up that way. So he was racing for him at that time.
So being from Jacksonville, is that how your relationship developed with Ronnie?
It is. We raced together a little bit in different divisions from time to time, but we did.
Was he a dirty driver?
No, he's pretty. And the only time he was dirty is when he was behind me. It was a different kind of racing going on back then.
Yeah. Did your dad own his own car all the time?
Very seldom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he did. In the later years, he did. And in fact, this is kind of a repeat of the story, but he was driving for Julian Klein at the time, who was, a promoter and so forth, and they were winning a bunch of races, too many, and it was hurting the crowd because he was winning every night. And so they, Julian sold the car out from underneath him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All of a sudden, he gets a phone call and the car is sold. Dad was so upset about that he went and found the guy that bought the car, paid him a little bit more for it, and bought it back, and then pulled it in our garage and ran it. And he still won a lot of races with it. But,
is that right?
Yeah, but he was so upset about that. He said, "Well, I'll just settle that."
Yeah. I remember that little '55 Chevy he drove.
Oh yeah,
man, that was a great car. He and Tiny Lund used to put on some of the best duels, and Tiny had that big old 61 Ford, looked like it was, as long as this building, and then here comes this little Chevy, and he's just nipping at his butt all the time. It was great.
64 Galaxy?
61.
61?
Yeah, 61 Starliner.
Yeah, that was a black 55 Chevrolet.
That's right.
Beautiful car, too.
Yeah, that was really neat. And so he enjoyed driving the beach? Did he ever talk about it?
He talked about it very little, but he did. It was a different type of racing, obviously.
Sure.
But, he loved it. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Something different.
They were starting about 60, 70 cars back then, too.
Jeez.
So you hoped you were somewhere mid-pack anyhow, and you made it through the first turn.
Yeah, that's right. Holy cow. What you got there, bud?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, what was your accolades that you really enjoyed about racing for yourself?
Oh, my.
You had big shoes to fill after your father.
I did.
And how involved was he in your?
Oh, I would never had the success I had without him.
Yeah.
He was not only his name got me, in certain spots as far as sponsorship and that type of thing. So that helped quite a bit. But I was struggling a little bit. I'd come from the limited sportsman division, was what you started in, which was the 6-cylinders.
Right.
6-cylinder, 55 Chevrolets, late models at that time. But that's where we were racing, and of course I was doing real well in it, and I thought it was time for me to move up. And then I was hoping to drive Dad's car because he was on the verge of retiring at that point in time, and he was driving a late model 427 64 Chevelle. And eventually, though, I did drive that car.
Did you?
Yeah, but he thought I needed a little bit more time and so forth, and so eventually I drove that. So if he hadn't have given me that initial start,
right,
I'd have never been as good as I was.
Sure.
So it just wouldn't.
He just kind of groomed you in the lower series.
He did.
Yeah.
He didn't communicate it as well, but after later you realize why he was doing what he was doing.
So what was it like the first night that you hopped into that 427 Chevy?
Oh my gosh!
Chevelle.
I realized why he took a while, because I'd driven like a late model before, but not. It was more like a 10th, 11th place car. It wasn't that car.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of pressure on it, because he had also had Wayne Shugart had been driven a little bit.
Really?
And so it was a case of me stepping into that car at that time, which is more of a story related to that as far as Wayne Shugart is concerned. Him and I were pretty close, and because of him driving Dad's car and so forth. So we had really team cars at the time, but again, I was in 11th place car or something, at the time. But it got me ready for more horsepower and better car. So.
Yeah. Did you ever have any dreams of getting to the big time?
I didn't think about it too much. I did get a chance in '79 to qualify for the Permatex 300 here at Daytona.
Really?
So there was
the Busch race.
Yes, at that time, there was a guy in Bunnell, Florida. His name was Robertson. He owned a lumber yard and that type of thing, and he had an old tiny lung Grand National car.
Oh boy, no kidding.
Yeah, and so he had a guy with Ford build the engine for it, and it was ready to go. So unfortunately, we blew a motor in practice and never made the race. We were fast enough. We would have qualified.
Yeah.
And probably been back third of the field, something like that. But back then, you know, you could run about 170 and be in the back part of the field. So, but I enjoyed it. But that was my only real chance as far as, you know, moving up. But if I had an offer, I'd drive anything. Yeah. It didn't matter. You know, I just love driving. So.
Yeah. Did you have any apprehension about running Daytona?
Yes, I did, because it was a situation where I'd driven nothing but short tracks at that point in time. Really, the bigger racetrack I'd really been Brunswick.
Oh, really?
You know, and Brunswick at that time was a high bank, large track. They've narrowed it since now, and of course went to red clay and that kind of thing. So it was almost an asphalt surface, and it was very fast. So we were probably running, you know, 130 down the straightaways there,
no
120,
kidding.
something like that. So. And but it was a big change for, you know, when you're running Ocala and you know, Jack Speedway and Volusia and that kind of thing. So, and I spent a lot of time at Volusia, so there was a lot of good memories there. So,
so you ran mostly dirt then, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's real racing there.
It is. It is. I loved it.
You know, I grew up in Ohio, and we had good racing up there, but I mean Jacksonville. I mean, that was one of the bigger hubs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that in the state of Florida. Jacksonville and Miami, it seemed like those were the two locations in the state of Florida that were spectacular places to race.
Yeah, for short tracks, Hialeah, outside of Miami, boy, they brought all the big boys in. And Jacksonville, you know, Jacksonville went back to the 30s, that track there. Yeah. And, you know, the old Speedway Park. And they really put on a show there. Then they went to Jack's, which was another great racetrack. Yeah.
I like your hat, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I got a good deal on that hat.
Yeah.
And so did Wayne.
Yeah.
Where's mine? Where's my 3 for 1? It's okay. I guess I'll show my bald head.
Yeah.
You got to know somebody.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you know, back during that time, though, to touch on it a little bit more, it was I didn't know until years later, but how fortunate I was to live where I was for short track racing, because Jacksonville was the hub. It was where Winter National started, really.
Oh, sure.
Before it went to Volusia.
Right.
It was because we had, you know, the Allisons was in there, and the Red Farmer, and Tiny Lung, and many more that came through that area. And then after that, I would have never been able to compete against, you know, Larry Moore, Bucky Simmons.
Oh, boy, no kidding.
All these guys, because I'd come down for speed weeks at Volusia.
Larry Phillips, did he come down too?
Larry Phillips and a guy named Billy Moore, and just on and on and on. There was so many of them. So Freddie Smith,
oh sure,
you might remember them.
Well, he was a tough dirt track driver.
Yeah, he was really good. So all these guys, you know, would come through Jacksonville down to Volusia later on. So, but before that, it was just Jacksonville. Yeah, you know. So
you know, I think guys back then, for the love of the game, they just loved the race, didn't they?
Yeah.
And you know, didn't care if they got a lot of money out of it. They just wanted to be there and be part of it. And it was their gig on Friday nights, Saturday nights, the showtime. You know.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Guys that race now, they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
You know? But for the love of the game, you guys were a rare breed.
Well, talk about something interesting. Scott McCarthy's sitting over here. He's got an entry blank for the 1970 Dixie 500 at Atlanta, and the entire purse was only $89,000.
Oh, wow.
And these guys won't go to the men's room for $89,000. It's hard to believe. Then you got contingency awards and all that, but you're talking about not a lot of money.
No, that's an autograph session payment there for these guys now.
That's about right. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, Winter Nationals at Volusia then paid back then 78, 79, 80, right in that area. It was right around anywhere from 1,500 to 1,700.
Geez, that's a lot of money. Most of the time, you're running for a couple $100 for a feature.
Yeah,
most of the time.
I was surprising, but a lot of the races, in fact, if I didn't run for points much, the guy I drove for most of the time, we had to go where some of their money was. And sometime instead of racing in Jacksonville, we was running on Saturday night, we'd come to Volusia because they played $200 more.
Oh, my gosh.
But back then we were still winning somewhere around 1,000, which nowadays when they say 1,000, they think it's a lot with some of the 401 or the 604 crate cars and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking, how in the world can they possibly
$200 would have paid your tire bill back then. So it was worth going to Volusia.
But at the time, it seemed like a lot of money, right?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Was there one track that over the years when you were racing that they did away with and tore down because of building a business park or whatever? Was there one of those that just really kind of hurt your feelings?
Oh, well, yeah, that's an easy decision. It was the old Jacksonville Speedway
cars.
Oh,
boy.
Yeah, I mean, that was... And I didn't get a chance to drive there as much. I started there in the limited sportsman division, and so I ate up the wall a lot there.
That was easy to do.
Me and that guardrail knew each other well, but yeah, you miss that. Even today, I mean, I live in town. Every once in a while, I'll take a sidetrack and ride by where it was. You can't tell it was there anymore, but it brings back, I mean, I was selling Speed Sport magazines as a kid in the stands.
Jeez.
No kidding. And I mean, I was a...
You were a diehard guy, man.
I mean, again, that was all I thought at that time.
Did you play any other sports or anything? Or?
Not much. Middle school, I played basketball and football.
Yeah.
But by the time I got into high school, it was all racing.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought about this later, of course. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school because as soon as school was out, I was at home.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I was because we also had a 10-acre farm, and I was the only boy, only son. So I mean, I grew up working hard, and at night, as soon as the sun went down, I was in the garage, doing something. So
hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Wayne Ezell, everybody.
All right, Wayne. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Racing's original North Turn is our broadcast headquarters. If you're looking for a good drink, great entertainment, and the best in food, they're right on the beach at Racing's original North Turn. Come on down to dinner tonight. Here are a couple of testimonials. These are actual testimonials from people who have enjoyed the North Turn. Been there many times, always great food and drinks, great location on the beach. And another, what a great experience. It's my new favorite restaurant in the Daytona Beach area, Racing's Original North Turn on South Atlantic Avenue. That's A1A and Ponce Inlet, about 3.2 miles south of the Dunlawton Bridge and A1A intersection. It's Racing's Original North Turn, a restaurant, museum, bar, gift shop, live music. That's Racing's North Turn. Thanks to you, the original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill has been voted top 10 beach bar in Florida year after year after year. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim, and co-host, Gary Keller.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We do appreciate that. And we thank you all for being here today and everyone out there checking us out. We thank you for that. I know we have fans all over the world. And you're international now, Wayne.
Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine that? Yeah.
It's amazing. Who would have thought, right?
No way.
Well, this segment's being brought to you locally by Staples on International Speedway Drive, Boulevard. Anything for the office. And you go in there and tell them what you need, and they can, I'll guarantee they'll be able to hook you up. And if you go to Legends of Racing Radio Facebook page, you hit Facebook, you can check us out here on live. And then an hour later, we'll post the show, and you can go to YouTube and check us out there, too. So, and then hit like and share, and we would appreciate that. Other than your dad, did you have a driver that you really looked up to?
Yeah, that's an easy. Wayne Sugar.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. In fact, I had a, well, I was telling about it earlier. I had that late model that I drove. It was a lesser car, and they were kind of team cars because Dad owned it as well, and he, it had a 396 in it instead of 427, that kind of thing. So, but he wanted me to get some experience there, and so we were side by side in the pits, and learned a lot from Wayne.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he was a terrific chassis guy. And later I discovered that that's what I loved. I always felt it made me look better if I could get the chassis dialed in.
Really?
And so I used to experiment with that quite a bit, and so I learned a lot from Wayne. And also because of that, later when I got better and I raced against him, I always drove him harder than anyone else. I mean, because I wanted to show him that,
your setup was as good as his.
Yeah, or at least that particular night I was as good as him.
Oh man!
And so I really drove harder, and I mean I wanted to outrun him so bad.
Yeah.
And if you outran him, you were flying.
Oh, you were doing the best.
Yeah.
Did you outrun him very often?
I did.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I got the best of him a few times. So
All right.
yeah, then again it was. Especially, when I got into Dad's equipment and got a little better, it was, we could compete. So,
Yeah.
and he had good equipment most of the time.
Yeah.
Wayne did. So,
Well, we were so blessed to have him on the show not long before he passed away.
yeah, I was sorry to hear that. And
Very nice guy.
And I didn't stay in touch with him like I should. You know how that happens.
Yeah.
You kind of grow
Well, he
apart.
was a little reclusive, though. He didn't come out very often.
But I'll tell, if you got time, I'll tell a short story about this.
Sure.
We were at the Jacksonville Speedway, the Pecan Park location. We were there one night, and I went out in Dad's car, and it had rained, and the track, it was the oily clay back then anyhow, and it was just mushy.
A mess.
And I'm out at warm-ups, and I come in, and I'm in a bad mood.
Yeah.
I mean, I said, this thing is too wet. You can't even race on it, And he said, and I said, I can't even stand on it. I mean, I'm spinning the wheels all the way down the straightaway. And he looked at me and he said, well, then don't slam it to the floor down the straightaway. And I said, what do you mean? He said, half throttle it. And I said, really?
That's against your nature.
He said, yeah. I said, okay. So I went back out, and sure enough, I was running a lot faster.
Yeah. Oh, be darned.
And, of course, later the track dried out and everything. It was fine. I thought to myself, why didn't I figure that out? I was young, and all I knew was stand on it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I read this week, it was kind of sad to me that Irwindale, motor track, motor park in California,
Right.
shutting down.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful
wow.
facility, too.
Yeah. Yeah, NASCAR ran there for years.
Yep.
I never had the privilege to go there. Did you?
No, never been there.
But everybody I knew that was there, they liked it.
Yeah. It was like a super speedway, only it was a short track.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful grandstands, suites, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Real nice facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Kind of sad.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know I still lament the passing of Speedway Park. I went there as a kid, and that was the most phenomenal racing I'd ever seen. Even to this day, it was just something that stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, of course, it stayed with me. It was a dangerous track.
It was fast, too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fast, and no guardrail or anything going off of number one.
Yeah.
So when you went off there, you usually ended up end over end, and then the guardrail. And for a while, when they put in the guardrail, they left the poles were just above the guardrail a little bit. So if you got up on top of it, you'd catch one of those poles.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and
A lot of guys got hurt and maimed really bad and died.
They did.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, then they had that big gate on the backstretch, and they were running a Grand American race there. David Pearson won it in the Camaro. And this is when he was in between good rides, and he hadn't gotten the Wood Brothers yet, and everybody thought Pearson was over with, but he came back and he won that race. Wendell Scott was in the race that night, and John Sears, all that. But Wayne Andrews had a beautiful Mustang, and during practice, the damn back gate swung open and caught him at the front fender and ripped the whole side off his car. Somebody forgot to latch the gate.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an interesting track, that's for sure.
Yeah. Where do you think, Wayne, the sport is now racing. I mean, you don't see so many yokel locals naturally because there's just guys not out there that really do it that much anymore. You know, it's dwindled away. You know, what do you think? Where's it going?
You know, I probably would have. First of all, I'm a YouTube nut right now. You know, I got hooked on YouTube, and what I've been doing, and it's really brought back me into racing a little bit more recently because I follow Hunt the Front series, and there's a team out of Milton, Florida, with Hunt the Front, Joseph Joyner, who's a driver there, and there's a young guy, Talon Willis. It's in Mississippi. 15 years old.
Really?
Yes, and he's driving crate cars and also some of the modifieds, and some of the same modifieds that you know, Kenny Wallace and Schrader are driving here and there. So, and I watch them, and a lot of the YouTube videos, you know, follows them all during the week and so forth on what they're doing and that sort of thing. There's some guys out there that still have a lot of love for the sport. I mean, they spend, you know, every day of the week and studying it. But the money, of course, has just gotten so high. I mean, you know, Joseph Joyner runs for Kubota, and he's got plenty of money. He runs the super late models. And so but there's still a lot of love for it when they can, and a lot of weekend. They were in Milton, Florida, also running over in Louisiana and Mississippi, and there's some tracks still open over there that they're still racing quite a bit. So
you run for Kubota. Boy, that's a pretty nice sponsorship.
Yeah, that's a nice sponsorship there.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that shows that the sponsor realizes the importance of those races too. Yeah.
Well, they're all televised anymore.
Oh, really?
You know, all Hunt the Front TV. Those are all televised on. And, of course, you got the Lucas series of the super late models that are, and some of the crate guys get on TV as well because when they run the big programs. So, and, of course, they do that during Speed Weeks here. We're at Alltech and Ocala and Volusia.
Right.
You know, East Bay. So, yeah, but again, you know, they're showing up with 2 race cars and 3 spare motors.
Amazing.
And,
yeah, we
and
had
spending weeks down here.
We had 1 race car and a tow bar.
Yeah.
And when we got a trailer, wow, man, that was big time.
The kids are going racing now.
Yes, sir, buddy. Watch out, we're here.
Yeah. That's one thing about Kenny Wallace. I mean, you know, when he got out of NASCAR, I talked to him about this. I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "I'm going to race." You know, he's got that high-pitched voice. You know, I'm going to racing. What are you going to do? Modifieds, man. He said, I'll make it happen, and he has.
Oh, yeah. He's doing very well.
He's got some good sponsorship. I don't ask him how much money he's making.
Yeah.
You know, but I know he's doing very well at it. You know.
And he's having a ball.
Yep. He says it still allows me to get out there with the fans. And he likes that limelight. You know how Kenny is.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And Mike's the same way.
He's running about 60 races a year.
I know he is.
Oh, boy, isn't that something?
And Schrader's running more than that.
Yeah.
So.
And he's going to be 70 in May. Schrader is. Hard to believe Ken Schrader's going to be 70 years old.
Yeah. And he's never really talked about the Dale Earnhardt incident to anybody that I know of.
He talked to Dr. Hunter, who was on our show one time, Dr. Harlan Hunter. Hunter said, yeah, Schrader told me what he saw when he looked in the car, and he knew right there that Dale was gone, but he never went into any detail. And nor did Hunter go into any detail. I mean,
I can only imagine what a broken neck is like.
Yeah.
You know, wow, bad deal.
Terrible.
Yeah. So,
but it was quick.
Yes.
You got to believe that was really quick.
Yeah. Hated to see that. That was a bad moment for motorsports all in all.
Oh, boy. We're still feeling the effects of that.
Yeah, I think so.
Even today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So were you ever hurt in a race car?
Not much. Had a starter come through the front of the car one time.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and it caught me on the arm. And
golly, never heard of that.
Yeah. They should. That was at the old Speedway, by the way. Yeah. So at Jacksonville Speedway Parks where that happened. But other than that, nothing much. Just a few things, bumps and bruises, that sort of thing. But I was fortunate.
Well, that's good. That's good. Hey, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with Tony time.
Tony time. All right.
Hey.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. At Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees, it's all about making you happy. Beach Boys Embroidery can customize your athletic golf apparel, caps, hats, badges, buttons, magnets, backpacks, bags, totes, clocks, watches, oh, and of course, T-shirts. Sure, they're at 2033 South Ridgewood Avenue in South Daytona, and they're waiting for you to call now. 386-255-5880. Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees. Let Aloha Marine get you on the water with huge discounts on great brands like Bayliner, Carolina Skiff, Hurricane, Key West, and Regal. Pay as little as $169 a month with 10% down and approved credit. Don't wait. Get to Aloha Marine, 1700 North Nova Road, Holly Hill, Monday through Saturday. 47 years and always better than boat show prices. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim, and co-host, Gary Keller.
All righty. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate
Thank you.
that. Coming up on Tony Time here, this segment is brought to you locally by Daytona Flea and Farmers Market, voted one of the top 5 markets in the country by USA Weekend. Visit our Shop Now network and our Shop Now at Daytona Flea and Farmers Market Facebook page for the latest in vendor tours. Tony, good to see you.
Good
Hey,
to be
Tony.
seen, of course.
Indeed. What you got for us today?
Well, first, your dad was a Navy veteran, so thumbs up, salute for that.
That's true. Yeah.
I think your dad was in the last, I guess, cup race at Jacksonville. Richard Petty way out in front, bust the steering, and Wendell Scott won the race. And, of course, that's a whole nother story. But did your dad have any stories about racing against Petty and those guys and Wendell?
You know, he did not. It was, I wish now, of course he's passed, I wish I could pull more of these stories out of him, but he didn't talk much about the past. Probably some of the stories I remember the most were they went to Myrtle Beach, and they didn't want to get a hotel that night, so they pulled the cars up there on the beach and all slept in the cars that night, and then ran Myrtle Beach. It was a 2-day event, so they were there during that time. But he did not talk. He talked quite a bit about his offer for Ford Motor.
Wow.
When he did talk quite a bit about that, because that was something that had always bothered him. He turned it down. He was, as you may know, he was offered a Ford ride, and he turned it down at the time, and due to personal reasons, traveling, that type of thing. And also, to be quite honest, it didn't pay that well back then, and it was, but he always questioned whether he should have went with it or not. I think he did the right thing, because those guys, it was so dangerous back then. None of them really survived over the years. So I think he did the right thing. I might not have been around if he hadn't have done that. So, but he was, he didn't talk much about, and I wish I'd have pulled it out of him more, because he was a great race car driver, really good.
Plus, he was a full-time farmer, so I mean, he was busy 24/7. Wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he worked hard.
He did. He worked very hard, and and when he worked, he'd come home. He'd come home from work. He'd usually get home around 3:30, and he would take a nap. And then when he took that nap, he was ready to go then till late at night.
You had to love it, Absolutely had to love it.
Yeah, he had to love it. He was, I mean, more than anything, he was just so competitive. He didn't like to lose at anything. I mean, nothing. But and he had that drive, that you had to have at that.
Yeah. Was he hard on you since you were the only boy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. At times, he was, but he when the only time you knew that is when you did something wrong, and I knew not to do those
But
things.
you knew he loved you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you had 2 sisters?
I had 2 sisters, one younger, one older.
Yeah.
And of course, my older sister, she's got stories of her own.
Oh, really?
You know, as far as because she grew up around the racetrack as well.
She was there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, again, virtually the first place we went when we were born were to a racetrack.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's where we went. That was the way we operated.
Yep.
We had a week during the summer. We'd go to the lake and camp and water ski and things like that. But other than that, it was racing.
Kyle Petty told me one time, he said, we didn't ever go on vacations because our vacations were every week during race season. You
That's
know?
right.
Because they would drive like you know,
Right.
and they would picnic with the Allisons and, well, Buzz knows.
Oh, sure.
You know.
Well,
so.
my vacation, because I was still carrying on a job when I was driving, and my vacation was Winter Nationals at Volusia every year.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be darned.
Because some nights we'd run 6 straight nights.
Oh, gosh. No
so,
kidding.
I mean, yeah, so
Yep.
that was my vacation.
And it would get a little cold out there, too, wouldn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Yes, it did.
I've never been any place colder than Volusia.
I know.
In
I remember
February.
that one night we went. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I had shorts on. I thought, what the hell?
You know, you're talking about the money for the Ford factory deal.
Yes.
We had Marvin Panch's contract with DePaulo Racing, which became Holman and Moody. From 1956, we had it up at the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
And he got X number of dollars for driving, plus a percentage of the purse, plus an extra check for being a mechanic. And the whole thing came out to about $7,000 for the year. And this was a factory deal. That was the top of the line. So can you imagine that? If somebody was making $25,000 back then, they were really doing good.
Yeah.
I would say most likely Dad was making more money than that driving, you know, where he was up and down the eastern seaboard and up in Carolinas and that kind of thing.
And it was a safer form of racing, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where was your mom through all this?
A nervous wreck most of the time.
Yeah. and
Is
then
it?
when you got into it,
Oh yeah, she went to the first few races I had and then just forgot that.
Yeah.
Just she wasn't showing up at the track anymore. It was making her a nervous wreck. So, but you know when Dad was racing, she was there because if nothing else, when we were younger, she was taking care of us.
yeah.
And then you know as we both progressed and I started racing that sort of thing, she stayed at home because it just made her a nervous wreck to be there.
The way I look at you, I mean, you've been on the show now. This is our second time. You know, you are just proof in the pudding that, you know, everybody's got a story. You know,
Amen.
and you know you have
Yeah.
a good story. You know, that's what's cool about
Yeah.
it. What did you do for a living, or what have you done? I'm still working. You know, I don't know.
I was, believe it or not, I was in banking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in mainly. I worked for some large banks, and it was in the automobile finance division, and some called it indirect lending, that type of thing. So that's mainly what I was in, and I was fortunate enough to draw a little retirement from there and that type of thing because I worked for Chase for a while, Citi, so. And they were most of the places I worked were understanding. I will say one thing because after you got up to a certain level there, you got plenty of more vacation time.
Right.
So it did allow me to
Yeah.
to utilize that when I was racing. So
And your wife,
yes,
your family.
oh my goodness, yes, I've got a daughter and a wife I've been married to for I'm gonna mess this up 38 years.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So, and she was tremendous. I can't believe she tolerated what she had to tolerate at the time. So, and there's, we'd try to take a weekend off or a night off here and there, and then you'd get a phone call that somebody wanted you to drive their car in Brunswick the next day, and and all of a sudden all the family plans change, and that's where you're going. So that was the type of things that she had to tolerate over the years. But
It takes a special woman to be married to a race car driver.
oh, it does.
Yeah. Well, especially back then. I don't. Right now it's so easy for these guys. I mean, come on. helicopter in and out of the track. Come on, man. But you talked earlier in the segment of the show of how you kind of emulated. Oh, I think we're off the air.
No.
Nope, we're there. Okay.
Here we go.
But you talked about being a setup guy.
Yes.
And how much you learned.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, if you're a setup guy, man, you could make a lot of money.
Yes. Yes.
If you stay with it and that exclusively. I mean, I know setup guys now for some of these NASCAR teams are making $300,000 and $400,000 a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. Some of these engineers, and they become engineers. They go to school to be an engineer and set up for designs for NASCAR teams. There's that university in Lima, Ohio. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But they advertise all over the track during Daytona.
Yeah.
My engineering degree was this. That's again a short story. Here's what I did. I was driving for someone else, but I still had a really nice garage and so forth there and near a home. And we went out to one corner of the piece of property, and we had a 55 Chevrolet frame out there. And we also had Chevelle front clips. And this was a place, and so I took that 55 Chevrolet frame, put a Chevelle front clip on it because I like the steering better, the front steering.
Yeah.
And that car I built myself.
Out of graveyard parts.
Out of graveyard parts and, that type of thing. Well, I could drive that car after we had it built, like on Friday nights here or somewhere where I was still driving for somebody else. That car, I could do anything I wanted to for it. So I was experimenting with it. I'd go weeks and not drive it, and I'd change the chassis somewhat, change things. And that was the biggest education that I had. From that point on, it clicked.
You probably enjoyed the hell out of that car, too.
Oh, I did. Yeah, and I destroyed it. Gosh, it was gone.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our old friend Bill Cushion. He's back
Bill's
in
back
town.
in town, baby. Yeah.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Racing's original North Turn is our broadcast headquarters. If you're looking for a good drink, great entertainment, and the best in food, they're right on the beach at Racing's original North Turn. Come on down to dinner tonight. Here are a couple of testimonials. These are actual testimonials from people who have enjoyed the North Turn. Been there many times, always great food and drinks, great location on the beach. And another, what a great experience. It's my new favorite restaurant in the Daytona Beach area, Racing's Original North Turn on South Atlantic Avenue. That's A1A in Ponce Inlet, about 3.2 miles south of the Dunlawton Bridge and A1A intersection. It's Racing's Original North Turn, a restaurant, museum, bar, gift shop, live music. That's Racing's North Turn. Thanks to you, the original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill has been voted top 10 beach bar in Florida year after year after year. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim, and co-host, Gary Keller.
All righty. Thank you, Owen. We appreciate your support there, buddy.
We love Olin.
Oh, we sure do.
Missed him last week.
Yeah, he was a mad doctor for Halloween.
Was he really?
Yeah, he almost had a couple of...
Well, he didn't even have to get a damn outfit.
Yeah. He almost had a couple of those gals there at his home talked into a little play doctor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true or not. So anyway.
Olin, he's crazy.
And this segment is being brought to you locally by Homewood Suites by Hilton. Right around the corner from the Speedway, they got the historic sports cars out there this weekend. Cars from all over the world, all these real historic cars of these rich guys out there racing around. And it might be hard for you to get a room there this weekend, but after that, it's a real nice place to stay, nice breakfast, and a nice happy hour, and there's good people. Mr. Bill Cushion, it's so good to have you back in town, buddy.
Bill, yes, sir.
Hey, well, thank you.
Mr. Bill.
I'm happy to be back and be standing here. Thank you for being here. You touched on something I was going to go into. You said you changed the clip on the front so you could decide whether it had front steering or rear steering.
Yes.
So up north, you know, they have cars that are metric. Then they have cars that are all tube construction. So that's part of my question. Was it all tube construction or all metric? And Did you run quick change rear end? Because the tracks are different. And if you could touch on some of the motors. You know, now it's so technical. You have to have a motor builder. You have to have a chassis builder.
Mm-hmm.
So in your day, you built them all yourself, where there other people had an edge because they could go out and buy it?
Yeah, good question. Yes, they had an edge. I can answer that real quick. The ones that could afford it, but the car I was speaking of that I used the 55 Chevrolet frame and then the front clip. This was right before the square tubing frames came out. And but if you know anything about a 55 Chevrolet frame, it is a square tubing. And the one thing you liked about it is it was already reinforced. And so at that time, as far as affordability, that was the best way to go. But the square tubing frames were just coming into play. And yeah, we ran quick chains at that time. Early on, when I started early in the early 70s, 71, very little quick chains then. First car I drove was a 55 Chevrolet Limited Sportsman, and you know, we just had the truck rear end, and you didn't have the quick change at that time. The late models had the quick change, but the Limited Sportsman didn't. So, and then as far as the motors were concerned, I quit racing in the early 80s, and you needed a motor built from, in my case, the last car I drove, it came from racing head service out of Memphis, Tennessee, and the motors at that time were cost right around $10,000 to $15,000 at that time.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Was it a crate motor?
Yeah, it was, you know, you bolt it in and go. And these were 400 cubic inch small blocks is what they were. And in fact, when I got that motor, I realized what I was competing against then, because some of the cars that I was competing against already had those. So that was when you were changing over from the 427 to the small blocks. Because the small blocks were lighter, and you were getting about as much horsepower out of them.
Now, was your career all dirt, or did you try some asphalt?
I wish I'd have been able to drive asphalt. Really think my driving style would have been suited for it. But no, it was all dirt.
Yeah, in my younger days, I worked with a guy named Randy Charland that was a national champion. And he would run the same car one night on dirt and the next night on asphalt.
Yeah.
He grooved his own tires because he wanted them a particular way. But, you know, those days are gone. But I'll leave with this. Being a northern guy, we always thought the farmers worked on dirt and the race car drivers drove on asphalt. Sorry about that.
How to make friends, Bill.
That's right.
Yeah, Rennie Charland, he was, till the day he passed away, he was known as the champ. He won several NASCAR sportsman championships, and he was the king up there in New York. Quite a guy.
Yeah.
Probably
no, he was from Agawam, Mass. I'm sorry.
Oh, really?
Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably the closest thing to asphalt would have been Brunswick at the time. They had put a kind of an asphalt compound over the top of the clay.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to run entirely different tires than you ran, for instance, in Jacksonville, Volusia, or whatever. It was a tire with a small tread, real small tread, so almost an asphalt surface.
I'll be darned.
You wouldn't run sideways too much there a little bit, but real fast track. I love that track.
Was that a half mile?
It was more like a 5/8.
5/8,
yeah. Good banking on it, and
Like Richmond.
Yeah, it would be, right?
Yeah.
Pretty close to it. So, but you had dreams of maybe hitting the big time there at one time, and then realized that reality set in, and you figure you're okay doing what you're doing, right?
yeah, I was happy with it, enjoying it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was your dad proud of you?
Oh yes. Did he say it?
No.
You know, but he was.
Yeah.
You know, actually, the compliments came from other people.
Oh.
I mean, what I mean by that is he would say something to somebody else. Example, Frank Cochran at Schooler Cams. Most people know him. He commented to me one day about something Dad had said to him. So it mainly came from those type of conversations. But
Interesting.
but you know, Dad, as a lot of people during that era, I mean, as far as communicator, he wasn't a great communicator. But you always knew he loved you and he'd help you.
Yeah.
You know, so and I miss him, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was the same way. He wouldn't tell you he loved you, but he'd show you.
Yes.
Like waxing your car for you or something like
Yeah.
that. You know? Yeah. Now, did your dad come from Jacksonville?
He was born in Largo, Florida,
Okay.
and then moved up to Jacksonville in early life. So, yeah, but I mean, he started his racing career there at this old Speedway Park.
Yeah.
When he was 18 years old.
Really? Boy, that goes back a ways, doesn't it?
It goes back, yeah. And so that's where he started racing. And again, I think as far as his racing career, he was also fortunate about living in that area at that time. Because as you were pointing out earlier, some of the people that came through there were racing during that time. And even later, when I started racing, some of the people we had a chance to race against, you wouldn't have had that opportunity if you didn't. But we were really not that far from the Carolinas, Georgia, and that sort of thing, being up in North Florida. Yeah. So it made it convenient.
They could tow down in a day. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to take another real quick break. We'll be right back with Rich.
All right.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Welcome to Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. You're right in the middle of all the action. Daytona International Speedway, the airport, One Daytona, Florida's newest entertainment and retail destination, and of course, the world's most famous beach. You'll love our newly remodeled 1- and 2-bedroom suites, along with our popular King Studios. You won't need your full kitchen, as Homewood Suites Daytona serves up complimentary breakfast and evening social. It's like home away from home. Go to HomewoodDaytona.com for Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim, and co-host, Gary Keller.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. And don't forget, we got Legends of Racing radio show, or radio, Facebook page. Don't forget that. You can check us out live. Everybody's sitting out there. Or if you want to check out the show an hour later, we'll have it on YouTube. Isn't that right? That's how it works.
Facebook.
It's the other way around? Is that right? Okay. All right.
It don't matter. Just cover the bases. We'll be good.
Well, anyway, if you go to YouTube or Facebook, you're going to find us,
yeah.
Right? Okay. Rich Combs, how are you, sir?
Oh, yeah, I'm wonderful today.
Oh, glad to hear that. Thank you.
You know, this is a refreshing guest. What a deal. I'm sitting listening. I'm trying to get every word because this is what the show is all about, Legends of Racing.
Amen.
And you're telling the story of family racing, how your whole family was in it.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being here. I'm going to take you away just a little bit from gear ratios and transmissions and front clips, sort of a personal perspective. In the olden days, or in the Legends days, you know, guys were mechanics and they were drivers. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered, which one would they rather be? In today's world, you got mechanics and then you've got drivers, and they don't interchange usually. Mm-hmm. So from your history, which do you think most people would be? Did they want to be the mechanic or did they want to be the driver?
I think they wanted to be the driver. And I think a lot of them, if you look, even some of them are around today, they had a racing background as far as a driver at some point in time, and they either weren't good enough or they didn't enjoy it as much as they did, or they had better opportunities being a mechanic as far as money was concerned. So, but I think they would have rather been a driver.
You didn't have a choice. You know, if you were going to be a driver, you had to work on your damn car too.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a money deal.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be disrespectful towards the modern day NASCAR driver, but you'd be surprised. Buzz and I've talked about this in the past. there's a lot of drivers that can't tell you shit about the car's setup or what it needs and so forth. But, there's some guys that do.
Yeah.
But there's just as many that don't.
Yeah.
Well, I would have been in trouble if I hadn't had Dad back in those days, because Dad was a mechanic. Mm-hmm. And so if I hadn't had his support, now in my case, I enjoyed the chassis and I was a chassis guy. Yeah. And so that's where I spent my time. And then, he was more of the motor guy, because even when I drove for other people, there was times when Dad was hired as the mechanic. And so he always had that place in my life, which, I'll never forget. And so, it was truly a family affair. It had to be,
What's cool? Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. You go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know what's cool about this is that to hear these stories, like Rich was saying, family. I mean the connection that you have with your dad and even your older sister, and
Yep.
I mean that's cool. That's cool.
Well,
Happy times.
if I want to race and you stopped on the front straightaway, the first people I would see would be Dad, my sisters, my wife, and so forth. That'd be the first people that'd be there. So it was, and you can't replace that.
No.
Well, thank you. And in all honesty, what a refreshing guest. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
Appreciate that,
much.
Rick.
Appreciate it. I enjoy being here.
That's really neat.
Sometimes Buzz and I talk about this. Sometimes you have guests that you'll think will be okay, and then it turns out to be really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Better than what we thought.
Oh, we've had some great
and
surprises.
you're one of those guys.
So
no
is
doubt.
this a compliment?
It
I'm
is.
trying to
It's kind of off. Yeah.
Kind of coming in the back door.
Yeah, coming in the back door. Yeah.
Hey, I'll take it.
No, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and
I do.
you're more relaxed this time. Last time you weren't as relaxed as you are now.
No, and I'm talking racing. When I'm talking something I don't know anything about, I'm not very relaxed at all. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
So it's been a great show, and I've enjoyed it. And what a great ride too. I compliment you for having those great times.
Is there anything you
thank you.
regret?
Ooh, good question.
Oh I do. I've got so many of those. I still lose sleep over some of those
Do
things.
you really?
Oh yeah. So I truly wake up sometime, thinking of something I did wrong, and I should have. I wish I would have enjoyed the process better.
Right.
I didn't. My wife told me today that I actually thought if I finished second, third, or whatever, I actually thought I handled it okay if I drove a good race. If I drove a good race, in my mind, I said I got everything out of the car that day or that night. We just got outrun.
Right.
But she told me, no, you didn't handle it very well. So, it kind of stuck with me for a while. Thank goodness we were racing again fairly quick, but I wish I'd enjoyed the process better.
Yeah,
And
you're too busy, though, weren't you?
yeah, and also join some of the people better,
Right.
at the time. So
Interesting. That's something. Yeah. Well, this has been a great show.
Great show.
well, thank you very much.
We thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on
for having
down.
me.
Yeah, well, it's our honor, really. And, I wish your dad was here. We'd like to pick his brain.
Oh my, yeah.
You know who we need to get on? He's so good at bringing people down. Ronnie's so good at bringing people to the show. We need to get you back up here.
Oh, yeah.
It's been
he's
a while.
got a great story.
Yeah.
And he'll make it up if he doesn't know it.
Ronnie will never run out of stories.
Yeah.
We were talking about one just a few minutes ago. Matter of fact, I hadn't heard about. So yeah.
He's a great ambassador to racing in general.
Oh, my gosh.
Especially in the Jacksonville area.
Yeah, and what they've done with that Hall of Fame, he and Sue, is incredible. She does the work of 5 people.
Oh, I'm telling you, they are the grassroots of racing in Jacksonville.
Then Ronnie's the supervisor.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, it sounds good. That's for sure. Well, we've had a great time, and we've got a few folks we need to thank. We need to thank Danny for working the board. Danny Joe.
All right, Danny.
Appreciate that. And our bookends here, our applause bookends, Dave and Mike. Yeah. Mike Mad Dog, he's the boss man. They do a heck of a job.
He makes it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Bill and Rich and Tony, we thank you for all you do there.
Yes.
Yeah, and they always have great questions.
We just appreciate anybody that would come and listen to us.
Oh, you betcha.
It's just amazing what we get, and nice crowds going on right now. But come January, look what we're going to get. Everybody's going to come back.
Holy cow! It'd be
know,
awesome.
Get 100 people, 200 people.
Yeah.
We're all about that.
Our Pabst Blue Ribbon people will be here next week.
Yeah, Tom and Vicky.
Yeah.
And they listen to us faithfully, I think, every week.
That's
She
right.
texts me when I mentioned them a
Oh,
couple
no
weeks
kidding.
ago. Yeah.
All right. And next week we'll have a new president.
Yep.
Well, all right, we don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out.
Mike always told me from the very beginning, don't talk about politics, okay?
Religion and politics. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But racing's a religion, though.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and
What would our society be without it? I know we're closing down, but that's a good question that we need to talk about at some point in time. What would we have done without racing?
oh man, it'd be
In
boring.
my life, in your life, I
Holy
mean,
cow!
Rich.
I can't
you
even
know,
imagine.
Yeah, Bill. I mean,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week. We got a real good guest lined up, and I hope you'll tune in. And thank you so much for being a part of what we do today. And big thank you for Mr. Wayne Ezell, everybody.
Yes. All right, Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come back again.
Appreciate it.
See y'all next week. Thank
The
you.
Legends of Racing radio show originates live from the very spot where